Man, you are not going to believe the history I am about to uncover as I visit the actual site of the true story of the legend of a man who beat a machine. And then I get chased by the freaking cops. Stay tuned. The legend of John Henry is one of the most enduring in American folklore. The story tells of a steel-driving black man, a former slave, who raced a steam-powered machine and won, only to die of exhaustion shortly after. But is John Henry a real person or a myth? There is no definitive answer to this question. Some historians believe that John Henry was a real person who lived in the late 19th century. They point to the fact that there are numerous oral histories and written accounts of his life and death. Others believe that John Henry is a fictional character who was created by African Americans during the Reconstruction era. They argue that the story of John Henry is a metaphor for the struggle of black people for freedom and equality. The legend of John Henry has become a powerful symbol of strength, determination, and hope for all people of all races. Today we're in the small town of Leeds, Alabama. Folks around here may call this the big city because they've got like 4 or 5 traffic lights. But we're standing outside the train depot in search of the legend. It's a legend that I was told about 15 years ago. And when I heard it, I was like, well, wait a minute, I thought that was just a legend. I thought that was a folk tale. A tall tale, a fable, an allegory. I thought it was just like Paul Bunyan in his Blue Ox Babe. But it turns out this fella was a real dude. And today we're going to go see if we can track him down. But this is where the story starts in my mind because we have a sign over here. There is still controversy surrounding this legend. But currently 2 towns are claiming ownership of the John Henry legend. Leeds, Alabama and Talcott, West Virginia. Talcott has a tunnel, a bronze statue, and even a John Henry festival. Leeds only has this historic marker and a whole bunch of evidence to back up the true story of John Henry. But let's take a closer look. The first stop is on top of Kusa Mountain, the site of the tunnel where John Henry's race with the steam drill took place. This overlook on Highway 25 is a stopping place for weary bikers on their journeys across the state. This time a bunch of riders from Jacksonville, Florida showed up to share the rock on top of Kusa Mountain. We will roll down the mountain and hike up the tracks to the tunnel in the spot where the steam drill raced and lost to a man in 1887. If you are not from Alabama, you might not know of the amazing roads around here. Not only the roads, but the Barber Museum and racetrack is just outside the town of Leeds. Highway 25 here has thrilled many a rider and even taken a few lives with the twisty turns combined with scenic beauty and a few surprises in corners. But today we are just going to the bottom of the mountain. At least 3 books exist on this topic of the historical evidence of John Henry, and one of the authors points to the letters he received back in the 1920s, referring to the mountain where the contest took place. 2 different witnesses pointed to the name of the mountain as being Cruzy or Kersey, and the author gave up on Alabama as the location of the legend because he was not aware of the historical Kusa being locally pronounced as Kusi, and even spelled that way in some old documents. Perhaps this oversight was the reason why West Virginia wound up as the best guess where the contest took place. There is much more compelling evidence that the contest took place in the tunnel we are rolling down to, but we will address that in a bit.
On the railroad tracks and hump it all the way up to the tunnel. It's not that far down the holler a piece. Luckily today it's very overcast, so it's not going to be much of a sweaty adventure. And this is our spot. This is our spot, boys and girls.
I just realized, getting off my motorcycle, that the last time I was out here, actually the first time and the last time I was out here, came out here on my old KLR and rode down these tracks. Fully aware that this is an active railroad, and it still is, but if you think about the stupidity of running down the railroad tracks on a thumper, making all kinds of racket, what kind of a heads up do you have? And typically, the way I remember things is trains don't blow their whistles just rolling down the track. They blow their whistles when they get to intersections. Let people know they're coming. So this is not one of those places where, yeah, they might blow their whistle at that corner there, but if they're coming through here, maybe I don't hear them at all. And what I remember was, it wasn't as close of a call as I've had on many other situations riding down railroad tracks, but it was close enough. I think I'd been off the rail maybe 2 or 3 minutes when I heard the train coming, and just kind of flashing back to my younger, dumber days. I mean, what I'm doing right now is illegal. They don't allow you to walk along the railroad tracks. Probably because they have so many people losing their legs and lives. It's a lot of fun for me to imagine rolling down these tracks towards the tunnel back 130, 140 years ago. I really don't like imagining working and trying to build things like this, because that kind of makes me tired in my brain and in my body. But this is the tunnel. So I made it to the tunnel, and I would say, yeah, no trespassing, extremely dangerous, yeah. I don't remember if I rode through this thing last time. It seems like, yeah, I think I was pretty aware that it was pretty dangerous even back then, but you can see this is quite impressive how this mountain is turned up. You can see the layers look like shale is turned up like that. Could be sandstone. Anyway, yeah, it's turned up like that, which makes me think that maybe this was easier rock to go through with a hand drill, a hammer. Yeah, look at the detail, man. This is crazy. And look how far it is to the other end of the tunnel. Other end of the tunnel! I mean, it's cool just to see this history here. So I'm glad I did that just for the history. 1887, it should say on this plaque here. I think that's just code for railroad code. It does seem extraordinary to me the amount of effort that was required to not only excavate this amount of dirt and rock from the roadbed, the tunnel, but once you start chiseling away rock, it just kind of blows my mind. I hope you can imagine how much effort and work and labor went into projects like this, and why people suddenly started turning towards machine and steam power. The overwhelming relief from labor and probably the expense, even though maybe some of these guys were getting paid pennies a day at the time. Slavery was over at this time, so they had to pay them something, but I don't imagine they were getting paid a lot of money to do hard work like this. Just chiseling out the rock, not to mention carrying the debris away, crushing it into the gravel that made up the rail beds. It's just an extraordinary amount of rock. And you can see the light of the end of the tunnel here. I would say that's probably close to a mile. But as we roll back out towards civilization once again, I just am fascinated by rail and history and how things like this came to be.
$1887, baby.
The journal article by Dr. John Garst of the University of Georgia seems to contain the most compelling evidence of Kusa Mountain being the location of not only the contest, but after collapsing, witnesses also state that John Henry was taken to Oak Mountain 2 miles away, where he later died. Evidence, eyewitness testimony, and written accounts all point to Kusa Mountain. But why does all the hoopla surround the town of Talcott? I suggest that the legend is so big and the story so important that many communities would love to take control of this narrative. Well, that and the money to be made on tourism and festivals and events. I would like to travel to West Virginia to see what they are offering as evidence. I doubt they have much more than the statue. Maybe we need to get one of those and start our own festival. Just a thought. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and I'll see you on the next video.